I'm starting to find out that I do know nothing about it now. So
You're
I'm learning
starting
and
to learn.
unlearning. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
starting to
The thing is, you never
start.
stop learning about it or about anything, do we, really? We never know
Well,
much when you think about it.
I hope. I hope I learn the right things. Right. Okay.
Well,
So
one
here we
thing
go.
you should learn, cuz, I'll give you a little bit of
Yes.
the advice of a mate. It so happens, and you can Google this if you don't believe me, the Spanish word for wife is esposa, right? Esposa.
Yeah.
Okay. Spanish word for wife is esposa.
Hmm.
Now, if you add an S to that, Esposas,
Yeah.
what do you think it might mean? What's the word? What's the Spanish meaning? Wife is esposa.
Yeah.
Esposas, if that's how they pronounce it, I'll tell you. And this is really true. Is Spanish for handcuffs.
Oh. Right.
True.
Sorry about that.
Did you hear that?
Right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
exposer. Uh,
Esposa is wife in Spanish.
right.
Esposa with an S is handcuffs. So you will do well to remember that, cuz, in all your dealings now as a married man.
It sounds like a threat.
It's a
If
good
you don't
start, isn't it?
comply, if you don't
Well,
comply, there will be exposure on your hands.
I think that's true. But you can always come and talk to me on the podcast if you get stressed at all
Ah.
as a married man. I speak from experience.
Right, okay. So do you want to do the opening introduction for us, please?
Yes, hi there, everybody, listeners and viewers alike. Here we are again on the Alien Spaceship podcast, where we discuss various things, hopefully of interest to people. I'm Trevor Gear, and he calls me Bruv.
And I'm Emmy Hickins, and he calls me Cuz. Welcome to the alien spaceship. Over to you, bro. I hear there is going to be some what's that word that I was using? Some go on, remind me. The topic.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but
I had
some
it in my
what?
head just now. What was it again?
Well, I think I put on our WhatsApp thing. I put boxes and blankets. Is that what you
That's
mean?
it.
That was it.
Unboxing and blanketing.
Yeah, not boxing, boxes and blankets. And actually,
Right.
you had
Okay.
some truth in the suggestion. It may be a song title. Yeah,
Yeah.
but before that, I just want one bit of trivia you may or may not find interesting. The
Right.
oldest person, the oldest ever person documented by the Guinness Book of World Records was a French lady called Jean Calment, Jean Calment. Now, the interesting thing about her, and this has nothing to do with boxes and blankets, I hasten to add, but the interesting thing was she smoked very heavily for 100 years. She was 122 when she died. Now,
Right.
she was born in 1875 and she died in 1997. So she almost made living in three different centuries, which I guess some people do. If they're born very late in one century, they can go to over 100 and go into a third century. Anyway, she lived to 122 and she died, as I say, in 1997. But the thing, as I say, was she smoked very heavily for 100 years, and she ate chocolate. I think it was 9 grams or 2 pounds of chocolate a
Right.
week. She drank wine, not by the bottle every day, but quite a lot of wine, alcohol, in other words, and yet she thrived. In other words, going against all of the scientific suggestions or evidence that you don't smoke, you don't drink too much, and so on and so forth. And it shows that humans can be, they can sort of, if something different happens in terms of their longevity, whether that's encouraging to us, I don't know. She put it down her long life, interestingly, to olive oil, both in her
Ah,
food and on her skin. I mean, she doesn't say how much. And she said, daily pleasures. and a stress-free existence. Well, maybe that's something very few of us can achieve, a stress-free existence. But no, I thought it was quite an interesting bit of trivia to read, that people can, go right against the grain in that sense. Now, the oldest person in the world up until 19, no, not 19, 2012, I believe it was, is an English guy called John Tinniswood. Now, he died in November 24, and he was 112. He was born the same year that Titanic sank, and which was 20 years after Liverpool Football Club formed, only 20 years after. In other words, they were formed in 1892. He was a lifelong fan. He lived in Southport, and he saw all of the glory years, if you like, of Liverpool's European and domestic achievements. So
Mm.
John Tinniswood, and he lived until, as I say, November 24, but until August 24, and so August 12, he was the
Mhm.
world's oldest person. Again,
Wow.
verified by
Mm.
by the Guinness Book of World Records. So yeah, there are some very interesting people, and you just wonder what it is that makes some people live a long life. I guess it's part of their genetic makeup, their lifestyle maybe, but lifestyle, as we say, people smoke heavily and they can still live to a ripe old age. And we're not here sort of advocating things like smoking, of course we're not, but it just shows that there's a rich tapestry of events and existence in humans. So yeah, that was that. And the only other bit of trivia I was going to mention, because we like to sort of bring domestic our own things into this, I was reading that somewhere in Yorkshire, and I'll tell you where
Yeah.
it is one of the strangest street names in England is Whipma Wopma Gate. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's just in York, Whipma
All right.
Wopma Gate. Yeah, I'll tell you the basic. What it says, it's a short street in York. I've been to York a few times actually. I don't remember seeing this street though. It runs south from Collier Gate to meet Pavement, Fossgate, and Stone Bow or Stone Bow. Name was first documented in 1505 as Whitnow Watnow Gates and later as Whitney Watney Gate. It's thought this meaning is neither one thing nor the other street, neither one thing nor the other street. So
All
you
right.
probably haven't heard of that. I certainly hadn't. But Yorkshire, of course, is quite famous, isn't it, for some of these weird and wonderful expressions. I mean, the famous one, I guess, is on Ilkley Moor Bartet as a song, of course. So, yeah, we like to bring some personal things into our thinking on our podcast, guys. Now, I've got a few questions to ask you, which kind of I didn't write these questions to relate them to each other, but when I looked at them, I thought, well, they all have a similarity of it. And when we don't sort of do heavy, serious stuff on here, but sometimes
Yeah.
it's good to consider the world around us and the world we live in. So let me ask you the first question, and then we'll perhaps talk about the subject generally.
Mm.
Should we give to homeless people on the street? That's my first question for you.
Should we give to homeless people on the street?
Yeah.
Uh, I would say way up. I would say way up. Look at the
Yeah.
person, because not all homeless people are addicted to substances or liquor, if you put it that way. And not all homeless people have made bad choices in life. Not all of them. Now I say that because um, I have I have almost been homeless, where I just thought, oh my days, where am I gonna go? What am I gonna do? What are people gonna think? Because if you've never been in that situation, if you've never been in a situation where you're a bit hard up, you can't relate to it.
Mm.
It's not something that you could understand because you've always had a roof over your head. You've always had to, pay your way through in life. You've always had to work. But there are circumstances whereby you know, setting things a tossed on you, not by choice. So, for instance, one of the homeless guys I was watching on television, and you looked at him, and when the cameraman approached him, I thought, oh, he's one of them. You know, you subconsciously you build an image, you build a profile of these
Mm.
people. When the cameraman approached him and he said, "So how long have you been homeless?" And he kind of said, "Well, I've been homeless. I've been sleeping rough. I've been homeless, altogether about 6 months." And the guy said, "Well, so why are you homeless?" And he said, "Well, it's a funny story, actually." And he had this cheerful disposition about his situation in life, which I at the time I didn't share it. I thought, go on, go on, let's hear it, let's hear it. And he said his wife actually, he had a fight with his wife, and his wife chucked him out of the house, and she took everything, and he just got really depressed that he couldn't even turn up for work. And so he got fired at work. And that's how, he couldn't pay his way through in life. Obviously, he couldn't go back to the house where he lived with his partner. And so that's how he ended up on the street. And I thought, wow, there's something I've never heard before. Maybe perhaps a few of us have never heard the story like that before.
Mm.
And I thought, so how long do you think you're going to be homeless? This is what the interviewer then asked. He said, "Well, I've been to, various, places to ask for help." Because the next thing that comes into your head as a human is, what are you doing about it? What are you doing about it? Do something about it. Get yourself out of that situation. But it's not that easy, is it? It's not
Mm.
that easy.
No.
If you're in a dark place, it depends on how long it takes you to realize that you've got to do something about it. Sometimes you could be there for a year and people are
Mm.
wondering why you're there. It's because something in your mechanism hasn't kicked in. Something is obviously destroyed, not destroyed it, but maybe incapacitated it for a while. And as such, you can't move forward. You're
Mm.
just stuck in that. And that's why when people get depressed, they're in that depressed state. Everything else around them is still there. Some people have wonderful family, that love them, that would show them love, that would be there just like that to help them. But yet they're still depressed. Yet they can't get
Mm.
out of it. Some have wonderful family members, like a husband and children, and they still can't get out of it. So it's not that easy, is it? Once you get into that stage, once you get into that state of, you know, I would say, I wouldn't say mentally incapacitated, but I would say somehow where your strength to act, your strength to do what's right for yourself is deadened until somebody comes and says, "Here, here's a helping hand. Come on, I'll help you do this. I'll take you to this. I'll take you to
Mm.
that." You could do it yourself, but you would not. You don't choose. Well, I wouldn't say you don't choose to do it, but you can't do it. You can't. It's very strange the human mind how it works until it's like something snaps in your brain and tells you it's time to wake up. It's time to do something. It's time. You can't remain here. That's when you start moving. So yeah,
Mm.
would I give money to homeless people? I would weigh up. I have done in the past. And there are the ones that I would roll up the window just to avoid because I look at them and I think, well, if I give you my money, it's going to sponsor some, dealers' lifestyle, lavish lifestyle. Let's put it that way. And so I think, well, in as much as I would love to help you, I have I kind of know where that money is going. But there are ones that I've helped. There was a guy that I saw that it was stood outside the local Tesco's, and he just looked a bit clean. It didn't look it didn't look haggard. He just looked a bit clean. And when he approached me, there were other ones there. When he approached me, I thought, there's something different about this one. So I called him to the side. I said, "Do you mind if I just have a word with you?" I said, "What's going on with you?" And he said, "Well, it's a very, I just find myself in it." I said, "Have you got any skills? Have you tried to look for work?" And he said, I said, "All right." I said, "Yeah, I'll help you. Give me your telephone number." And he said, "Oh, I don't have a phone." And I thought, I sort of gathered there's a kind of scam going on in his head.
Mm.
You know, you don't have a phone number. You collect money every day. You don't look the type. I'm not being stereotypical, but there's a type, isn't it? You don't look the type. You stand here. So anyway, I said, all right, come with me to the car for a minute. So I gave him some money that I had in the car. And I said to him, I'll be here. I, I said, this is where I shop. I said, when next I come, I'll try and get you an old phone with a number in it. So anyway, I didn't, I can't remember. I think I had a cold or something that period. And I couldn't go back there for like for a period of 2 weeks. And when I went back there, he was still there. He was still there. And I said to him, and I looked at him and I said, you're not really homeless, are you? This is a hustle. I said, this is a hustle for you, ain't it? And I felt stupid for trying to help him. Because if somebody tried to help me that way, I would I would be making an effort. I would say, if you're gonna try to find me a place of work or whatever, I would be the one making that effort. I would be the one saying, ringing
Mm.
you. Yeah, I would go to somebody on the street and say, "Oi, can I borrow your phone for a minute? I've just got to ring this person because he's promised to help me." I would follow it up, but he never did anything like that. So so yeah, in answer to your question, I would, but on very rare occasions.
Mm. I mean, the case the example you gave there of this fellow,
Mm,
without knowing that particular case, but I think you highlight actually one of the issues with, we call it homelessness. Let me just say there that I gather there is a stigma which people feel about being described as homeless or homelessness. And I think now the received wisdom is that the way to talk about this is to say people experiencing homelessness, because that doesn't sort of tie the stigma. And as you say, you don't know how long. We say, well, why aren't people doing something? I think maybe part of the answer to that might be that they get into a doom loop. Clearly, a lot of people who are homeless do have addiction and alcohol problems, perhaps which they can't easily get out of. So that's one issue. And of course, the other thing is I say about stigma, but maybe that's we need to recognise that we would almost describe in us, when we look at somebody, oh, they're not really homeless because they don't fit the description. We want to see someone ragged, unshaven, long haired, scruffy, maybe with a dog there at the side. I don't know, but this is one of the problems, that we all form a judgment based on the cover of the book, and I think that is something that could be quite dangerous. The other thing about homelessness, and as I say, we're not doing this as a negative discussion. We're not doing it as a
no,
religious discussion. Just purely
no.
part of our humanity on this, this incredible, I often say this, but this incredible existence we all have, this relatively fragile existence, there
Mm,
but for fortune go any of us into any pitfall, really. But it remains an incredible existence with, as you said about not walking in other people's shoes, we cannot do that. So we can't really make too many judgments without having experienced that. And the incredible thing about us humans is we are all completely unique. Nobody sees or feels what we see or feel in the way that we do. It's obviously quite impossible. And it's
Mm.
sometimes a thought occurred to me recently, actually. You know, even in a football match, you see the crowd, if you're watching on television or you're part of it, and you're looking around, and every single one of those 30, 40, 50, 60,000 people, it's all revolving around them. We're all seeing everything else. And you can bring that down, say, to at home. Now, you're a married man. Um, we think of our home and we think of the person or the other person or the people in that. And that's how we think about it. You know, you see your partner, they see you, but I don't see me, if you see what I'm saying. Even what we're
Yeah.
doing now, your perception of our podcasts is the same as mine, in that you think you imagine you're seeing me. Well, not imagine, you do see me, and I see you. And that's how, when I think, oh, we've got the podcast tomorrow, I think of your face. In the nicest possible way, Cuz, I must say, because we're different. We don't really see ourselves short of looking in the mirror. We're not part of somebody else's experience of us. Now, I'm going a little bit off subject there, but so it's very hard in a way for us to make those judgments. People who know seem to say that it is perilously easy to fall into homelessness. You know, they could be under pressure at work and they start to drink too much. Alcohol clearly is a major factor in a lot of problems in people's lives. If used sensibly, I guess it's a great thing to make us feel good, but it is a factor which is not easily broken. I mean, I won't name the person, but there was a famous footballer a few years ago. He played in our top league, and he was an England international, or he was an international. And apparently, he'd never had a drink, even up to the point he was playing for England. He played for England a lot of times. But anyway, one day after celebrating, they were celebrating a win, the team, and he did have a drink. He was persuaded to do it. And over the next few years, he became an alcoholic. But he'd never had a drink up until that point, probably in his mid-20s, whatever.
Mm.
And it kind of the spiral, the doom loop just happened. He couldn't break the addiction. It caused him to lose his marriage, and then his family. They kicked him out as well because of what was going on, and his home obviously. And he ended up sleeping literally on park benches for quite a few years. Now, I mean, as I say, I'd never named that person. As far as I know, and I sort of follow the case, if that's not the way to put it, it's not a case. But I believe he's better now because a couple of his previous football clubs have taken on the responsibility a few years ago now of helping him. And as far as I know, he's okay. He's been reunited with the family, if not his marriage, and he's on the mend. And I hope very much on the mend. But again,
Mm.
for somebody who was obviously well off financially, a sportsman, great talent as a footballer, he fell into this pit of, I guess, despair that homelessness can be. The other thing to say about it before I move on to the next question is that homelessness, or people experiencing homelessness, it's a hidden crisis, because actually the number of people living on the streets, either in tents or under boxes and blankets, you now know where that sort of came from. They have cardboard boxes, they have old blankets thrown on top of them on a cold night, and hoping to try and find some warmth. But the fact is, the majority of people who are homeless, it's
Mm.
hidden because they are sofa surfers, if you like. They live in sheds, they live in cars. We've said tents, but that would be on the streets or in very overcrowded temporary accommodation. That's where the bulk of homeless people are. And so it's very much a hidden. It's hard to do research, which I think the Ministry of Justice have done in recent times. It's hard to do research to see just how bad a problem it is. It's estimated that I think it's one in every 200 families
Mm.
experience homelessness, which doesn't sound much, but in another way it is. So yeah. Do you ever see anybody selling The Big Issue? You know, that magazine?
Yeah, yeah. So the big issue, when I used to live in London, I used to see people selling the big issue. And at first I thought, why are they selling the big issue? Anyway, it turns out it's only homeless people that could sell the big issue.
That's right.
And it's a very good um, i- incentive, not to incentivize um, living or people that are homeless, but it's a good incentive to um, make them feel seen,
Yeah.
and feel like a member of the society as well, because they've been given a responsibility,
Yeah.
and that yeah, so they've been given a responsibility that would help them in a way to get back to civilization or society whenever they can. So there's no pressure on them.
Mm.
They could still live the lifestyle that they wanted, but there's a bit of an incentive there that would tell them, listen, if you did this right, and if you're, because you could get addicted to making money or making good use of your time. And there's been success stories with
Mm.
with the selling of the big issue. There are people that have been able to successfully come out of the the predicament of being finding themselves on the street, and then be able to make good use of their, because with that you're recognized as being homeless, because you have to pass the criteria to then be allowed to sell the big issue. Not just anybody can sell the big issue. So that then sort of placed them in a good place mentally.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and if people are wanting to help, the people know that these people are genuine, because anybody could claim to be, in dire strait or in need of financial help. But anybody that is selling the big issue, automatically that person has passed
Mm.
through some rigorous checks to then be
Process.
allowed,
Yeah.
yeah, process, yeah, to then
Mm.
be allowed to sell it. I don't know if it's still going on. I've never been to central London I think the last time I went to central London must have been 2016. So it's really a very long
Yeah.
time ago. Do
Oh
you
no, it's
think there's,
still very much there.
oh,
And
okay.
as you say, one of the great things about it is that you can, if you want to, anybody wants to do something for people who experience homelessness, it is quite a
Yeah,
good way to do it. I mean, I think nowadays it's about £2 that they ask for the magazine. It is actually quite an interesting magazine when I've occasionally bought one. But at
yeah.
least you're doing something and that person is doing something to help themselves. It was actually introduced, the big issue, in, I think it was around 1991 by somebody called John Bird. He's now
Mm,
Lord Bird. And he teamed up with somebody called Gordon Roddick. You may
right,
remember Anita Roddick. She died, but she founded the Body Shop. So Gordon
right.
Roddick, I think, was a financier as well. So he backed John Bird's idea. And John Bird himself had experience being homeless and crime as well, I think petty crime. So he was a good man who knew what he was doing and how to try and help people in that situation. Gordon
Mm,
Roddick provided much of the initial finance and they set this up and it still goes on quite strongly around the country, certainly around the south of the country that I've seen. So yeah,
mm,
that is quite a good way of actually helping people in that
yeah,
situation. And as I say, it's so easy for us to make those judgments, which we all do, even if we never say something. We might just think, "Oh, I don't like the look of that person," and maybe that is not always that will put us off of trying to do anything for somebody. I think the bottom line is it is a potential doom loop for people, and they do rely on ordinary folk, I guess, and people like John Bird to come up with a solution that hopefully will help. Leads me on to my next question, which is kind of related, and it wasn't intended to be. And
right.
I'm not implying homeless people are prolific in any way, or even attempt shoplifting. Shoplifting perhaps is done by all sorts of people. But my
Mhm.
question is shoplifting a victimless crime?
Right. That's a very good. That's a very good. That's a very good question, actually. Now, we would have to look at all the uh, victims or potential victims of shoplifting. Because when you think about shoplifting, you think about the storekeeper or whoever owns the business. You think, well, they're the ones that would obviously be the first victims that would come to mind, or first persons of interest. But when you think about shoplifting, it's not a victimless crime because we all pay for it. We're all paying for shoplifting. So for instance, the shopkeeper gets insurance, say for damages or items stolen or whatever. Um, and the premium, whenever he claims, that premium will go up. And when it goes up, if it gets to a stage where it becomes unaffordable for the business owner, then there's only one choice left: close down. And if it doesn't close down the business, then it'll pass it on to the customers.
Oh,
You
shit.
know, it definitely passes it on to the customers. And then you have the inflation. So if you might think, oh well, yeah. So there's a shoplifting incident in Bradford, for instance. How does that affect London? How does that affect, Birmingham? It does actually, because in the long run, the companies that own these insurance firms, these insurance firms, they're all connected, aren't they? So if I'm charging, if I own an insurance company and I'm charging a shopkeeper, let's say £5,000 a year on, insuring the shop and against theft, against fire. Now, it would be hard for you, for instance, if you owned your own insurance firm, to then charge 2,000, because that's what they call the market going, or the
Mm.
or the market, well, the price going in the market. Um, and at some point it becomes standard. So whatever I'm charging becomes standard then. Then if you can't charge that because you're not getting the customers, I'll buy you over, and then I become the big guy. So it's endless. The victims that the number of people that could be affected as victims is endless, and it just doesn't encourage the shopkeeper itself. All right, so I was watching a program on BBC the other day, not long ago. I think 3 days ago I was watching this program, and this couple, they set up a coffee shop, and this coffee shop gets burgled. And they were like, also, how many times have your coffee shop been burgled in a year? And they were saying, well, we've had to move twice. I'm thinking, a coffee shop? You wouldn't think that of a coffee shop, would you? You just think, well, all right, so they've got this coffee making machine and probably a few snacks to sell. How much would that possibly be worth? But if a coffee shop's been burgled, and after the third time when they got burgled, and this was to the new site that they've moved to. Now, what happened was this couple decided to close down because they couldn't afford it. They just couldn't. They decided to close down because when you get burgled, it's not just the items, it's also the damage. Say,
Mm.
for instance, the damage to the door, the damage to the glass, the show glass or whatever. Because these thieves, they're not going to try to pick the lock. They're thieves. They're not locksmiths. They're not going to try to pick the lock. They're going to break in, however they can. Um, and so they had to do a GoFundMe. I don't think they actually did. I think they just silently decided they were going to close up. And then the community did a GoFund to to then help them to get back on their feet. And that's how serious it is.
Mm.
Now, if somebody's suicidal, if somebody if they were suicidal, They one of them could have decided to end it all and think, well, what's the point? So by shoplifting, by breaking into somebody's business premises, you've actually killed somebody, though not directly, but as a
Mm.
result of your actions, you've caused the death of somebody. And if that person is a parent, the list just goes on, don't it? The child becomes an orphan, or the daughter or the children becomes fatherless, motherless. Um, and maybe that guy would never, maybe that was what he was good at doing. And you've taken that away from him. You've taken his life away from him, really. So shoplifting is it's not just a harmless crime. And they say, oh, what about the big companies? Yeah, what about the big companies? If you steal from the big companies because you think they are big enough to uh, cover the cost, right? What if everybody else, you're not the only shoplifter. If somebody else does it, it's it then piles up, don't it? The losses. So, yeah, I don't think it's a victimless crime. I think
Okay.
it's much a victim's crime as any other crime. Yeah, sorry.
Well, that just leads me to my next question. Probably haven't got too much time left, but I'll ask you anyway. So, a friend of yours, a mate, a buddy, even a family member, but let's say a friend, confides in you that actually he's found a pretty good scam. He does his supermarket shopping every week, and he says, "I've found it's quite easy to put, I don't know, a little bottle of whiskey or something from the shelves and not actually put it through the scanner." Now, this is a great scam. He won't say "cuz," he'll call you Emmy, but it's a great thing. Now, my question is, if this guy says he's doing it every week and he's getting away with stuff, would you report him?
Yeah, would I report him? First of all, what I would say is you need to report yourself. You need to stop it and you need to, report yourself basically. Um, and if they don't, the first thing that comes to my mind when I heard the question being thrown at me, I'm thinking, would I have a friend like that? That's the first question. Would I have a friend like that? That person would cease being my friend straight away.
You
I
only have
would
absolutely 100% honest friends, do you?
Well, it's not that I have 100% absolutely honest friends. All right, so I'll give you an instance. So I had my best man, right? My best man. So he came to pick me up on the day of my wedding. And no, he came to pick me up. And I said to him, I said, bear in mind, I'm a man of religion, right? So I said to him, I said, why don't we take this shortcut? It was a one-way road, but it's a very short stretch. It's a very short stretch. And he looked at me and he said, you're an elder. I said, I know, I know. So those are the kind of friends I have. So even when I'm
Well,
tempted to do
you see,
to
yeah,
take a
they've
short
got you as
call,
a friend. They've got you as a friend, and on that
yeah.
occasion, you were the
So
not honest one.
I know. So this is what I'm thinking. Would I have somebody like that as a friend? So let's say I have a friend like that. Hypothetically speaking, I would never have a friend like that. Let's say I have a friend like that. I would not go to report them. I would not. I would I would say to them, what are you doing? What is the problem? Because if you're shoplifting and you're shoplifting a bottle of gin, for instance, what are you doing with it? Are you drinking it? Do you have a drinking problem? Are you selling it? Do you have a gambling problem? There's got to be a problem.
Mm.
We what Because sometimes what we do so often as humans is not look at the root cause of something. We tend to treat the symptoms. Oh, shoplifting is a bad man, right? No, there's a problem. There's a problem somewhere. What is the problem? Do you have gambling debts? Are you on drugs? Are you an alcoholic? There's something. There's got to be something.
Yeah, I mean
Anybody in their
that's if
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
go on.
go.
No, carry on. Well, I was only going to say that's fine if I mean, I said about a bottle of whiskey or gin or something, but
Yeah,
what if you're walking around the supermarket and then just somewhere near the tills or somewhere on the floor you see a £20 note? You know, it's no obvious. It doesn't obviously belong to anybody. Do you keep that
yeah.
or do you hand it in?
Oh yeah, that's a really do I this is a question directed to me.
Yes, I mean, I'm
Do
not
I?
trying to, I'm not trying to pry into your
No, no,
morality. I know you're a
no,
man
no,
of
no.
morals,
Yeah,
of course, but
yeah, yeah,
when we're faced with a situation, anyone in a situation, we say, well, if you hand it in,
yeah,
it won't get back to the person who's dropped that. Presumably,
yeah,
perhaps someone would go and say, hang on a minute, I've lost £20. So
yeah,
there could be a very strong case for handing that in. So yeah, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. These are questions I'm firing at you, and they're not
yeah,
easy to answer. That's the whole point of the
yeah, yeah,
questions,
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if all right, so just to be precise and straight to the point, if I was walking around Tesco's and I found a £20 note on the floor, um, I would walk past it. That's what I would do. I would walk past it because the moment I bend down to pick up that money, somebody might be looking at me and thinking, "What's he gonna do with that money? What's he gonna do? What's it? And that is something that I would have to look around. And when you look around, you pick up £20 on the floor, £20 note on the floor, and you look around. Already, you're guilty. You're looking around.
Has anybody seen me, sort of thing?
Yeah, is anybody seeing me? Is it okay to pocket it? So, so what I
So
would do is just walk.
if no one had seen you, would you say, right, I've done well
Yeah,
this time, and you walk off with it, would you?
I would.
I'm not saying
I
you
would make.
shouldn't. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a hard question, isn't it?
it is
It's
a
a
very,
hard
it's a
question.
very hard question, but I like to unburden myself as much as I can.
Yeah.
So what I would do if I picked it up and there was nobody around, what I would do, I'll go to the till and hand it in. And I would say, if anybody comes looking for £20, I don't care what she does with it then. It's no longer
Mm,
my problem. I just don't want it to be my problem.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all. Because you have to take it to the police station and then I ain't got that time for the £20 note. I would just hand it over to the till and say,
Mm.
listen, if anybody comes and they say they're looking for a £20 note, yeah. And if somebody says, oh, on the camera, we saw somebody pick up a £20 note and we don't know what he did with it, that's not my problem. That's not
They
my
say he was a shifty looking guy who
problem.
picked this up. He looked around to see if anyone had seen him. But I mean, the ideal answer, I think, in that dilemma, and it would be a dilemma, it would
Mm,
be if sometimes at the supermarkets you get someone with a charity box in the doorway when you first come in. And that would
mm,
probably be a good solution, wouldn't it? Just put it,
yeah.
say, oh, 20 quid. Or because you also get a box where you put food in to help people who are badly off financially. So if you could
Mm.
somehow get it into that, well and good.
Yeah. All right. So this is all we've got time for on the alien spaceship. Some very interesting conversations that we've had. Some some not so easy.
We've learned you're a bit dishonest when you're driving, so we'll keep that in mind as well.
Anyway, so you've been watching and listening to the alien spaceship. Myself, Emmy Hickens, and he calls me Cos. Just call me
Me,
Cos.
Trevor Gear, and he calls me bruv.
So it's a goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me too.
Ah, good, good, good. Okay, so we're gonna end
I
this
assume
one
they're
now.
45 minutes now. Are they slightly longer than
I know,
before?
yeah, so before it would cut you off, but
It did
now,
caught me out, yeah.
yeah, because of the premium thing, it won't cut you off. You can go on
No,
as
I
long as,
see.
yeah,
I
so
see.
that's,
Do you remember I
yeah,
said
so
a couple of weeks ago, I said, oh, we've run out of time because my
yeah,
clock told me it was 40 minutes. Yeah,
yeah,
I
it was right,
understand
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so I'm gonna end this one and